All right, today we're talking with Marine Veteran Trever Ahing, founder of BuyerBeater University. Trevor, got some great things to talk about: military entrepreneurship. You're doing great things in the real estate world. Looking forward to talking about all that. Before we do that, take us back. Tell us what you did in the Marine Corps.
Let's go, man. I was good old 0111, brother. I was a pencil pusher in this bad boy, dude. I joined in 2013 in April, took my ASVAB. I had no idea I was going to join the military whatsoever. Raised by my mom, single mom. Before I did join the service, I did parkour and free running professionally. You ever heard about that, where you like jump off buildings and stuff like that?
Oh, wow. I've seen that. I didn't know they had a name
Yeah.
for it.
There is. And so I stumbled into that with some buddies, getting paid kind of like a skateboarder. When you go on tour, you can get paid, but when you're not on tour, you're just living at your mom's house,
Yeah.
wearing sweatpants, waiting to go on tour, right? So at about 19 years old, I was waiting in line, dude, for Subway. And a Navy recruiter came up to me and he goes, "Hey, son, I'll buy your Subway sandwich if you talk to me about the Navy." And I was like, free Subway? Let's go. And I ended up talking. He roped me in. He got the gift of the gab. I started talking to the Navy initially, and about the third time I walked in, Joe, the Marines, the poolies, came running in. Right, they were all dirty, getting screamed at, and I looked back and I talked to my Navy guy. Nobody was in the Navy office. No offense to Navy whatsoever. And I said, who are they? And he was like, oh, that's the Marines. You don't got to worry about them. And I was like, I don't know. That's kind of up my alley, a lot of jumping and running. And so I said, I'm gonna go talk to them. And you could tell all the life left him. He was like, oh damn, and so I went to the Navy or to the Marine Corps recruiter, Staff Sergeant Godina, and I walked in. The first thing he said to me, he said, "What the hell do you want?" And I was like, I think I want to be you. And so I joined and I never looked back. And yeah, that was, a couple months, I mean, only about 6 weeks or so till boot camp, went in there. Started off hot, man. Graduated squad leader, got a meritorious promotion. I got lucky with my career though, Joe. I mean, coming into it, I wasn't the best administrator, but I was a damn good Marine. I really liked the idea of bleeding that scarlet, red, and gold, and so kind of finding my own independence. I was very codependent from my mom. And so kind of allowing me to find myself in the service and probably, going through that rigorous training. I felt like I found my sense of identity. First duty station was Quantico, Virginia. I got extremely lucky. I attached myself to Marine Security Guard forces. So a lot of the times I was overseas. A lot of the times I was in Africa and Europe doing admin for them, kind of really being able to be a part of their operations. I mean, it was a really good first enlistment. Picked up corporal meritoriously, and then when I hit sergeant, I came back and I was in Miramar, and in Miramar, I got there in 2017, and that's kind of when I found entrepreneurship and real estate, which is another really funny story. But that's kind of my initial helm of me in the service.
Yeah. So, what was your transition like out? What were you in like 4 years for? Was just one enlistment and then you're gone, or was your transition expected? It comes as a surprise.
Yeah, I was actually in 8 years. So I did 4 years. I re-enlisted when I was overseas in South Africa.
Mhm.
That was my second year out there. I got orders to San Diego, and when I came back to San Diego, I actually, man, I thought I was gonna do 30 years. I wanted to stay in, right? I was gonna be the first admin sergeant major of the Marine Corps, bro. You know what I mean? I was trying to go deep. Now the transition though really is it was very impactful for me. I never decided I wanted to get out. The only way I found real estate, actually, my mom was a renter her whole life. I thought buying a house was a scam, because financial literacy, it's not taught amongst service members. You don't
Right.
lean into your finance classes. I had multiple deployments. Coming back from Kuwait and places like that. I mean, who had time to look at doing anything like that? And so my wife actually, she said, I'm gonna become a real estate agent. I go, honey, you're beautiful. Little Filipino woman. I said, go sell all the houses to my friends. You know what I mean? Make some money. And I bought her a seminar for $60 in San Diego to go and kind of mingle. And my wife's a very introverted extrovert, and she decided to chicken out and she didn't go. And I said, I'm not wasting 60 damn dollars. So I went to the seminar, and Joe, that's where I met people. I found out that real estate it's not suit and tie. You don't need to have, I mean, you don't need to have all your ducks in a row. You don't have to go to business school. And I just had such a different perspective. I mean,
Right.
I was meeting millionaires wearing, beach shorts and flip-flops who owned 100 units, And so I'm like, wow. Yeah. And I had somebody approach me and said, "Oh my God, you're in the military. You got to use your VA loan." I said, "Oh my, I can't do that. I don't know how to buy a house." And he walked me through it. And that's when I found house hacking, Joe. I ended up buying property, renting out the rooms to my other buddies who had basic allowance for housing, and they were paying me way too much for this small room. And I was cash flowing a bunch of money. And I was like, "Honey, we're real estate investors," And then I took it to the next level, and I'll get to the transition right now where I was on my second property for this, and we were making some good monthly cash flow. I thought I could do real estate investing and, being a full-time Marine, things were going good. My father-in-law, I didn't grow up with a dad, so I was very close to my father-in-law. The last time that we spoke before he passed, he was at one of my properties. I went to show it off thinking he'd be very impressed, and he was for the first year or two.
Mhm.
And then, Joe, I had like bunk beds in my living room. Like I was like renting out my property to a bunch of my friends. And my wife was just such a sweetheart allowing this to happen. But I could tell she was getting over it. She wanted her own place. And of course, we had the means to do so. And my stepdad told, or I'm sorry, my father-in-law said, I love the hustle. He was like, but my daughter deserves a lot more, right? You're going to be a man, step up, save that money, and get her a place for you two so you can start building a family. And I thought he'd be able to see the transition right before my deployment. My last deployment, he unfortunately passed of an aneurysm, very last minute. It was about 10 days before I had to ship off. I told my command, I said, "Hey, I've done so much for the Marine Corps. I need you guys to scratch my back. I can't go." The Marine Corps was a revolving door, man. They said, "No, I'm sorry, you got to go." My wife was in shambles. I was very nervous for her to be alone. And I just told myself on deployment, I said, "You know what? I love the military. I'll never say a bad thing about the Corps, but I needed to have a vehicle I could drive where I can free up my time, right? I never want to be in a situation where I have to say no to my family because I'm trying to provide so much for my family that
Mhm.
the one time I needed to be there for them, I couldn't. So I felt like real estate could reclaim my time. And so when I came back from deployment, I went full-fledged into real estate to learn, the foundation. And I was able to successfully transition out of the service with the very cooperative command to do real estate full time. And that was going on about 4 years ago.
All right, back talking with Marine Veteran Trever Ahing, founder of BuyerBeater University. So, Trevor, let's go back and talk about house hacking. Uh,
Mm.
heard that term a couple times here recently. Uh, one of the ways to do it is how you did it. Like you buy a house and you rent out rooms, but then you're essentially
Yeah.
living with everybody. Um, but with the VA loan, the GI Bill VA loan, I'm understanding you can actually buy up to like a fourplex on your GI Bill, and you could live in one of them and rent out the other three. I mean, if you can find that scenario, that's probably like the ideal scenario because then you have
Cream of the crop.
walls. Yeah, a
Yeah.
nice fourplex GI Bill, living in one, the other three are rented out, and you're probably living for free or making money.
I'll tell you what, I mean, that is picture perfect. That's a great, great, a way to not have to pay, live rent free, allow yourself to cash flow. Living in San Diego, though, I would have had to, I couldn't even buy a porter potty, for the amount of money that we're trying to get in San Diego nowadays. And
Yeah.
so I actually started out just getting a lease and kind of subletting to my buddies, right? So, people think that all the lights got to be green before you can put your foot on the pedal. It doesn't, just end up getting a house that's a little bit bigger for you. If you don't even want to qualify just yet for the VA home loan, rent a property out. Make sure you put in, paperwork that you're going to be subletting this or you're going to lease it out to your buddies. Let them pay you. You're in charge of the rent, but this is a great way to see if this is even something that you want to do until you can save for said model of a duplex or a triplex. And so I kind of stumbled my way forward. My entire mantra even nowadays is imperfect action is better than perfect non-action. I heard what to do, and instead of just having analysis paralysis, I just started trying it. And then next thing you know, you start kind of molding your education that way, and you just start learning some lessons, and you go from there. So anytime I talk to service members, man, I'm like, there's going to be a bunch of excuses. You just need one reason to do it, and I'm your reason. Just go do it. Go
So,
get that house. Go try it.
so how long were you playing the real estate game while you were still in the Marine Corps before you ended up getting out?
About 2 years. I was doing it for about 2 years in. That was including, some house hacking stuff, saving some funding. And then while I was in it, I ran across, I got lucky, because I picked up staff. I picked up staff in under 6 years, so I was kind of already in some, gentleman's club of people I really admired and looked up to. And I was just a young buck, and so they already had houses, they had things that they were doing. I had some great warrant officers that were good mentors. And so I just asked, what should I do? And so they said, well, maybe you should look at, identifying other means of active income. And we had somebody who was buying his houses as a warrant officer from a wholesaler, right? And I said, what's that? And then he told me about wholesale. Now, nowadays, it's like agents, everybody's a wholesaler, and so identifying that, it's a tough niche to break into. I'm not here to sell you on that because I do think you need capital if you want to really play that game, and so kind of bridging the gap between distressed sellers and us, I ended up finding a good mentor to do so. And I didn't have the best luck wholesaling, right? I did get in front of some pretty hefty assignment fees. But what I ended up finding out, Joe, was I just was flirting with the old ladies and talking war stories with the men. I liked being on the phones a lot. And so I said, you know what? If my cash offer doesn't work, which 99% of the time it doesn't, but I'm not saying don't wholesale. I'm just saying set your expectations correctly. You know what I mean?
Right.
I got my license. So I was in the service with my license, and I would offer cash. And then if they didn't like my cash offer, I would just list the home, right? And so I kind of hit it from both angles. And then when I ended up going to one of my properties, I'm known for novations, right? And I can go into that. And this is kind of how I found my niche, my bread and butter
Uh-huh.
was I found myself listing a lot of homes that needed a bunch of work, right? Because my whole pipeline are distressed homeowners, and so I have 10, 15 listings, but nobody wants to buy them because they're in need of work, they're dated, they're ugly. And I felt like there was a way to bridge that gap. And so I talked to an Air Force guy, same exact thing. I drove like 2 hours to go to his property, and this is in Rosemont, California. And I had a cash offer. Come to find out, his cash offer was much lower than his VA home loan. And I was like, well, that's not going to work. He'll be underwater. So I said, I'll list it. And he was open to it. And as I walked in, he already started the renovations, but he got orders to Colorado. Right. And so I'm like, well, dang, half the flooring is halfway done. You painted some of the walls, your kitchen is dated. I'm like, and I just told him, I said, look, I could list this thing in its condition, but you got to dip out of here in like a week. How about this? Why don't we lock you into a certain set amount, right? I'll come in there with my own funding. I'll just renovate the home on behalf of you, right? Any appreciation I create through the renovation, when we list this, I'll cover all your realtor fees and closing costs. Whatever's left over will just be a return on my investment. Whether it's $1 or $1 million, I'm just going to make sure you walk away with exactly what you want. It's more of a collaborative process. He loved it, right? I heard about this through creative measures and people that I was, listening to at the time. It's called a novation, right? And so I said, okay, it could be worth $405,000 or 400 grand in its condition. I'd have to probably put it on market for like 329 for me to try to find somebody who wants to put the work in. After everything, you'd be walking away with about 310. So I just told him, I said, I'll guarantee you 315,000 bucks. I'll come in here with 15, 20K of my own money, and then I'll renovate it and put it on the market. He loved the idea, went back, we got everything under contract, opened up escrow. It sold for $405,000, 3 days on market, and I made about $55,000, which was a little under what I made that entire year as a staff sergeant. And
Mhm.
I was like, I might be onto something, right? 15 grand to make that. So I just went back and I revisited all of my leads where, the seller wants to sell, right? They're motivated. They just don't have the money to repair their home. I can bring in that capital, right? End up renovating on behalf of them, work them into their equity, and then sell the home and just make the difference. And I did that, and I ended up making a great amount where I was able to transition out of the service and do this full time.
Awesome. Now, were you given the owner like a purchase agreement that you didn't have to close on until the house sold to somebody else, kind of thing?
Exactly. It really is kind of like an on-market wholesale, right?
So
It's
you
called
didn't have to
it's
come
a
out of
buyer and or
pocket.
novator.
Yeah, you didn't have to come out of pocket to buy the house. You just came out of pocket for the rehab expense.
Renovate.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Which which I love because that means I'm not putting 10% down or interest only payments to a bank. I have no lending points. I
Yeah.
mean, when it comes down to that, I do end up paying the monthly, until the property sells, but that monthly mortgage, it amortizes their mortgage and it's applicable to their price at the end. So they can kick their feet up. I'll cash flow them. That's totally fine because it's a whole hell of a lot cheaper than interest only payments already,
Mhm.
and so it's a lot more of a collaborative process. And then we go into the nuance, and listeners will be like, well, what if it doesn't sell? Well, if it doesn't sell, right, I can just buy it for what I told them I was going to purchase. I can put it back on market, or I can refinance, which I've done multiple times, into an investment note, and I'm just holding the property that I just had to renovate, and I can get my cost back out because I force appreciated the home to appraise at a higher value. I just have to get the A to B out, which is a lower amount, and I can end up taking the debt on myself and rent it, right? And so it's been a great measure to be able to utilize that with really not having to keep any money in my deals and grow my rental portfolio.
Yeah. You mentioned the term novation. What's a novation?
So a novation, the fancy way of saying it is the replacement of one's position, right? So it really is just an on-market wholesale. I can go into the weeds, but when you lock up a deal, you lock up, with the intent to buy or assign, you have the rights to the contract. You assign the contract to usually an end investor who's going to close on it and flip it. A novation is just you lock up the rights to be able to sell the home. You tell the homeowner, you're going to take over three things: the marketing, the maintenance, and the management behind it. You have a certain set price. What I do great is I can throw this property on the market. I'll cover all the realtor fees and closing costs. If the property needs any work to get lending, I will cover that as well. So it really is just an easy peasy way of the seller to say, well, I want to make sure I make this amount. If you make some more, you make some more, but I can't afford to be able to pay for anything necessary for seller concessions or anything like that. And so think of a novation as an on-market assignment fee where I'm targeting conventional end buyers like VA home loans, 20% down, 1031s, FHA, and so I'm allowing them and the optimism of the market to come in and see the work that I've done so it could appraise at a property that they want to buy.
Yeah. All right. So ultimately, you turned this novation concept into BuyerBeater University. Tell us about
I
that.
did, yeah. My company became BuyerBeater, right? So all of our holdings, all of our properties, are under our umbrella of BuyerBeater. And after a couple years, me and my partner Robert, we realized it was very nuanced, and so a lot of people are scratching their head going, I have so many deals like this. I'm a wholesaler or I'm an agent and my property's been on market for 90 days. People say they want to buy it, but it's just so dated. Can we novate it? And I go, yeah, because I can put 15 grand to make 15 grand. I don't need to make these crazy spreads. It's an easy 100% cash on cash return. And so I started realizing that people wanted to learn this model and it wasn't really taught or commercialized. And so I kind of became the novation guy and I created BuyerBeater University, where it's very much just so an educational platform where you can come in, whether you've done a deal, you haven't done a deal. A lot of our community members, they're plumbers, they're school teachers. They don't care to learn the real estate world fully. They just kind of want to learn a model because they come across their friends wanting to sell, and you go, well, hey, let's put it in a better condition through this company, through my creative department, and when that way it'll sell a lot quicker and get you a little bit more money in your pocket. And they love it. And so we are a nationwide database where we do deals everywhere. If you end up wanting to put probably more than 25,000, it's going to be in California, Texas, Florida, Arizona, Nevada, markets that we can really control. I'm probably not going to put 100 grand in like some property in Arkansas. No offense. I just don't know that market too well.
Hmm.
But it's just a great way for you to come in. We do Zooms every day. And you could just listen to me run my muck, and my team teach you what to say and how to say it and how to find these deals for free and start trying to get a couple deals on your belt and pay for a vacation or two.
Yeah. Nice. So how long have you had BuyerBeater University?
I've had BuyerBeater University for I'd say a little over a year now.
Oh, okay. Fairly new.
Yeah,
So
fairly new. Yeah,
yeah. What kind of numbers can you share with us? Like how many people have been in your course or in there right now, or
of course, of course. I
audience?
have no pre. Yep, I have no pre-recorded anything. I don't sell you to sit down and look at it. We go over deal analysis. Yeah, you jump on, you hear me on the phone. And we have a little over 600 members now, right? They come in, we're spanning in
Nice.
about 25 states. Yeah, which is awesome. And we've been able to buy and acquire a little over $14 million worth of real estate through community members. I do zero. zero driving for dollars or direct to seller campaigning. All of my deals come from the community. They send in over 100 deals a month that we get to kind of pick and choose on what will make sense. And then if we do end up moving forward, we cover everything, right? I don't need anything from you. If you find a deal that needs 100K to make 100K, right? What we'll do is we'll front the entire cost. We'll be your bank for these creative deals, and we'll attach you to the equity on the back end or an upfront assignment fee. And it's just a great way for us to be your end investor and teach you what to do. So I don't need any other commitment besides you wanting to join, the community to hear exactly how we can get in front of it.
Yeah. Like I'm curious, like you got to know some of these people pretty well. You remember anybody that came in and knew nothing and they've grown so much that they're almost like hit it off and now they're out on their own?
Absolutely. Matt Salvas with House Quick, right? When Pete Denmark, we have Taylor. I mean, I could go on and give you an entire list.
Yeah.
Lewis, Jesse. But I'll go over Matt real quick because I love him. This is a guy, he's got a full-time job still, right? He's in Florida, has nothing to do with real estate. He heard about me through the grapevine, decided to come on in, and he joined. And in about 3 weeks, he got a wholesale deal, 10 grand, right? Changed his life. He was like, wait, because once you can, feel, see, and touch it, you're like, this is real, right? And
Yep.
so he got that, did a secondary assignment for about 6 grand. We decided to open up the space for midterms. We hold a lot of midterms in our portfolio, so we do midterm rentals through Pad Split. Now this guy went from owning zero real estate, and we own 3 midterm rentals with him, and he's been able to grow an acquisition team now, and he fully fledged just finds opportunities. We fund everything, and he cash flows every month on assets that he controls with us. And so we own 3 homes with him, and he's just a walking, talking great guy, just going, wow, this is
Yeah.
pretty cool. And it's because he took action, right? He just said, what do you want? I told him what I was looking for, and he put in the sweat equity, and we got in front of it.
That's awesome. Was it midterm rental? What is that? A midterm?
Yeah. So, what midterm rentals are is we'll end up buying a property and we'll renovate the home, right? Standard suitable for just regular rentals, kind of like a BRRRR strategy, right? Except when we refinance into our investment, a DSCR note, we'll put up drywall on the home, right? So we get rid of common areas. We don't have a living room. We'll make the 3 or 4 bedroom into a 6 bedroom, and then we'll rent out each room individually. And we usually rent them out to, they're not like halfway houses. They're not like sober living facilities. My demographic is very much so school teachers, right? Or Starbucks baristas, people with lower income that just want to have one of their spaces for themselves, a room that locks, and they have a kitchen that they can cook in, and they're saving for usually their own home or for a trip. And they usually stay between 3 months to a year. And I go through a great company called Pad Split, right? And you can look them up, and I identify where they need homes, and they fill it for us. They go, I need more homes in Leander, Texas. We find a property, we renovate it, and they fill our rooms.
Really? So you already established where there's demand for that kind of a rental arrangement, and then you go looking for houses in that area.
Exactly. I just reverse engineer exactly what we have. I say, what do you need? So we have one in Austin, Leander, New Braunfels, Dallas. We're very much so Texas heavy for those. And then we do a lot of our flips in Arizona. But anything in Texas has been darn good for the midterm rental approach. And it's each room is about $200 a week. So on average, we're able to cash flow a little over $1,500 a month as steady income if we're occupied at about 80% or above.
Nice. I'm curious, like, how often do you run into like regulation issues that don't allow that kind of thing, like HOAs or neighbors or city ordinances? Does that play a factor all that much? I mean, if you're
Oh,
ready to buy a house and you know that's what you're going to do, then obviously you
yeah.
ahead of time.
No, Joe, like for sure. We don't touch HOA properties. We're not looking at anything that's, too congested of an area. We are very much so looking for, C minus, C plus, neighborhoods where, we have room where we can, put a more elongated driveway. We have more of an area that will allow for divided housing like that.
Okay.
And I'm not here to, economic obsolescence is real. We're not here to depreciate a neighborhood whatsoever, right? We're just here to allow a neighborhood where we can kind of sustain that kind of growth and operate within that. And so I wouldn't touch an HOA property. I am looking for a 3 bed, 2 bath or a 4 bed, 2 bath. And a little anything over 1,500 square feet, no HOA, dated home. Let's get it up to rentable measures. Put some drywall up there and make sure it's a safe place for people to live. And people love it. It's kind of like it just really is like a new age hostel. You could stay for a
Yeah.
month or you could stay for 4 months. You could be new to the area, and until you're finding an area that you want to rent, you stay at a pad split, right? And so you just have that. And the cool thing about them, though, man, is it's like a social credit score. Like you on your app, if we have 6 people living in there, they can vote on how good of a tenant the other people are. And so you're kind of always on your P's and Q's. So if you get a bad vote and you're two below a
Yeah.
score, Pad Split will be able to escort you out. And we've never had to deal with that because people understand that once you're off that site, you're off the site. So people are very polite. They're very forefront. They're
Yeah.
very giving and sharing. And I've had a great experience with it.
Oh, that's hilarious. Yeah, kind of like Uber. Even as a rider, you're being
Oh,
evaluated.
yeah. Yeah, dude, absolutely, man. Yeah, yeah. If you're taking 20 minutes to get picked up, you probably, unfortunately, peeved off an Uber driver or two.
Oh, that's hilarious. Um, and so that like the midterm rentals, like you rent them by the, do you rent them by the week or you rent them by the month or what kind of contract you
Usually,
the renter?
usually it's no less than 3 weeks, right? So usually
Right.
a month. It's very much
But it's
so a
not like
month
they
because
sign a
the
year lease,
turnover.
you know.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. The
Yeah.
turnover is too long, so you can really sublet for about a month. They're going to sign off. They have an upfront cost that they have to pay. I think it's $150 where, if they end up leaving earlier, it's just a great way to clean the room, make sure we're good to go. We're not coming out of any of our net profit. And we'll come in and we've had everybody pretty much stay. We don't have cameras in the common areas. It really is just congested living, right? And I truly do think, and for all my service members listening to this and they want to get into something, allowing this, I don't think this is going anywhere. I think more and more people as they get older, they don't want the responsibility of a big house, right? They don't like the idea of being able to own something, so they want more of an ideology of sharing, right? It's less responsibility. It's something that they can feel more independent on. Everybody just wants to travel. All these 20-year-olds want to save their money and go to music festivals. And so if they want to, rent out one of my rooms and do so for 5, 6 years, that's what we're seeing. And so I highly recommend looking into something like that because I think more and more houses are going to start becoming compact because of the way, this new generation is. And so I'd gladly collect rents for that.
Yeah. Congested living. I've not heard that term. That's cool.
And Jess, I'm who knows? I could have made that up, but but I mean, you see what you know where I'm
Yeah,
going.
yeah. That's
Yeah, yeah.
all right. Well, so if somebody wants to find out more about BuyerBeater University, how do they do that?
I'd go to buyerbeateruniversity.com, check it out. Or, I would say reach out to me on Instagram. I check all my DMs myself, right? It's at Invest with Trev, right? Go on in there, ask me some questions. I hope the idea of novations perks up because I'll fund everything. My whole slogan is you find it, we fund it. And I teach you how to find deals for free 99. I need $0. This isn't you sign up, and then you got to pay for a caller and this. No, no. It's just, hey, come on in, listen to me and how I do this, and see exactly how you can end up, kind of taking advantage of these deals that are, local to you.
Yeah. So you don't have a job. This is your full-time gig.
This is my full job, man. So
You're
yeah,
supporting
I've
your
been
family with
full.
this.
Yep, I do. I do. I
Yeah.
got my daughter 18 months and I got a son on the way next month.
Nice.
So I am a
Nice.
full-time real estate investor. Been doing this for since I got out full time.
So you're completely on your own, no job. How's that feel? I always ask people, or the way I heard this term a long time ago, do you consider yourself unemployable? Meaning like you would never go back and get a job, or unless you absolutely had
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to tell you right now, I bit by the bug. It is fully, you know what it is? It really is just the coolest thing to support it. Obviously, closed mouths don't get fed, right? People look, well, you must have had a great command. No, I just asked questions. I rose my hand. I got in front of the rooms, right? I understand you got to pay to play. Go to the happy hours right down the street, right? Get your buddies together and start watching some YouTube videos. Take some sort of action so you can realize that this could be a reality. And now, I'm in my office. My wife and my daughter, she runs around all time outside. We have Disney Plus right in our, front office area. We have, golf around here. I mean, it really is just an environment where, I would much rather, work for myself and just allow other people to know that you can step outside of the matrix and you can do this as a hobby, and that hobby could turn into something for you, and reclaim your time. And so that's been pretty cool. Now, the thing is, though, Joe, it's a great question. I treat this like a job, right? This
Sure.
isn't just a
Oh yeah.
wake up and go in when I want, and that's what I see failing of entrepreneurship all the time. People that transition out of the service and they go into entrepreneurship, well, now you're sleeping until 10 a.m. because no one's making you get up at 5 a.m. PTs. You are your own worst enemy, right? That lack of accountability is exactly why you're going to be going back in 3 months or going to work at Best Buy, right? Nothing wrong with that.
Yep.
I'm just saying, I treat this just like I treated my military career. And that's exactly how you strive for perfection, you reach excellence. And I don't think you should ever let that go.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, you kind of answered my next question, but this will be the last one. We got to get going. Um, if you were talking to somebody that's on their way out of the military in the next year or two, imagine you were talking to yourself a few years ago when you got out, looking to get in entrepreneurship. They don't want to go work in corporate America, sit in the cube farm. Not really sure what vehicle to the fight to take as far as entrepreneurship, but they do know they want to run their own show, run their own business. They love the concept of entrepreneurship. What kind of advice comes to mind?
I would say I'd say always be a student. Don't be afraid to ask the stupid questions. I always go back to that because I didn't think real estate was going to be a vehicle I wanted to go into. But as I started identifying, what my whys are and what I want to do for my family, I found this to be the best pathway to do so. And so I became a fly on the wall. Your transition can be slow, but like I say now, it's small actionable steps. You can talk about it all you want. You can watch this podcast, which is great. But if I need you to look up happy hours near you, look up real estate investment meetups near you. There's dozens, and go there and ask the stupid questions. Ask how to get involved. Hey, can anybody help me on this? Or what does this mean? And start putting yourself out there, because the moment that you do, you're going to be a part of in order to be a part of the 1%, you got to do what 99% won't. And 99% of those JOB people won't ask those kinds of questions. So I need you to make sure that failing forward is absolutely something that you're going to do in entrepreneurship, and just let rid of that ego and start knowing that we're all figuring it out still. I didn't take a special pill and now I'm here. It's really expensive lessons, and it's putting yourself in a position where if you're okay with not with stomaching the fact that you're not going to get a first and 15th paycheck, I say freaking go for it, man. When are you going to wait for your next life? No, go try it out right now and fail forward.
Great advice. All right. Great way to end it. Trevor, thanks for sharing your veteran entrepreneurial success story.
Joe, I appreciate you, man.
You bet, man. Look forward to seeing your future success out there.
Thank you.
All right. These two Marines are Oscar Mike.